Makoto Nigi, an ordinary boy with no special talent like yourself, wins a supposed chance of a lifetime, a spot at the prestigious Hope's Peak Academy, a school known for gathering the best of the best. Sounds great, right? Except what Makoto thought was a dream quickly spirals into a nightmare. After stepping through the demon chambers, he loses consciousness and wakes up probably in my uncle's basement. Soon, he and several other students are greeted by Monokuma, a creepy bear claiming to be the principal. The rules are simple, they're trapped, and the only way out is to off a classmate and get away with it. Makoto came to learn and make friends, but now he'll have to survive in a twisted demon gang. In a blast from the past, Jin Kirigiri finds himself in a bit of a bind, literally tied to a chair. Enter Monokuma, a sinister bear, who decides it's a good day for a rocket ride. He sends Jin sky high in a rocket shaped like himself. The trip ends with a crash landing back on Earth, leaving nothing but Jin's skeleton behind. And of course this crazy bear is enjoying the show. Fast forward to the present, where Makoto Nigi, an average guy with extraordinary luck, wins a lottery to attend the prestigious Hope's Peak High School. As the super high school level lucky student, although I'm not sure if the word lottery is the right word to use considering what he is about to go through. He steps into the school and promptly passes out, thinking that P. Diddy put something at the gate before the party started. He wakes up with a note telling him to head to the gym. At the gym, Makoto meets 14 other students, each with their own quirky titles. From a fortune teller who probably didn't see this mess coming, to a fashion expert, and a mysterious Kyoko Kirigiri, whose talent is as unclear as why Makoto's here in the first place. Sayaka Meizono, a pop idol from Makoto's past, remembers him, which is either a miracle or she's just really good with faces. Suddenly, a bear appears introducing himself as Monokuma, telling them that they're all trapped in the school forever unless they decide to dabble in a bit of elimination. He creatively suggests methods like beat, stab, club, as if discussing a new workout routine. The students are understandably upset. Mondo, a biker guy, loses his cool and grabs Monokuma, who then blows up because touching the bear is apparently against the rules. Another Monokuma pops up to remind everyone of the no-touch policy before disappearing. After failing to find an exit, Byakuya, the rich kid, decides he's better off alone, because who needs friends when you're rich? Makoto tries to play peacemaker but ends up knocked out by Mondo. Waking up in his dorm, Makoto finds Sayaka by his side. She stayed to make sure he was okay, if only our exes were this pretty and nice in the past. Together, they attend a meeting where the group decides to enforce a curfew. The next day, Monokuma introduces his latest motivational tool, DVDs. Each student finds a personal DVD in the room. Makoto watches his, seeing his family happy and then suddenly not there, in a room that looks like it's been decorated by a tornado. Sayaka watches hers, freaks out, and bolts. Makoto, being a loser, promises to help her escape, showing that no matter how many times you get Chris breezied, there's always a chance to stand up, even if it's just to get knocked down again. Sayaka was feeling trapped and thought the only escape from school was through a drastic act, committing a murder without getting caught. Meanwhile, Makoto Nigi, concerned about the atmosphere, inspected his room and found a note on his bathroom door stating that water would be turned off at 10 p.m. each night. Inside a desk drawer, he discovered a toolbox, which he suspected Monokuma intended for more sinister uses. His bathroom door was unusually stiff, but Monokuma showed up just in time to demonstrate how to open it. Shortly after, Sayaka rushed to his door, visibly shaken. She claimed someone had tried to force their way into her room. Makoto tried to reassure her, emphasizing their group's commitment to staying indoors. Sayaka, still uneasy, proposed they swap rooms for the night for her peace of mind, and Makoto agreed. After spending the night in Sayaka's room, Makoto woke up to find her missing from breakfast, which was unusual. Concerned, he hurried back to his room, now her temporary space, and was horrified to discover it trashed and Sayaka dead in the bathroom, a knife in her stomach. Overwhelmed by the scene, he fainted. When he regained consciousness, Sakura Ogami had carried him to the gym where all students gathered. Monokuma explained the rules of the class trials. If they failed to identify the murderer, everyone except the eliminator would face dire consequences. If they succeeded, the murderer would be punished severely. During this tense meeting, Junko refused to participate in the trial and confronted Monokuma, leading to her sudden and violent death by spears summoned by Monokuma, shocking everyone. Now, with two dead classmates, the students knew they had to investigate Sayaka's murder thoroughly. As the main suspect, due to the murder occurring in his room, Makoto faced suspicion from everyone. He He and Kyoko investigated and gathered clues: a used knife, broken wristwatch fragments from Sayaka, gold flakes from a decorative katana, and mysterious numbers written in Sayaka's blood. They also found a broken crystal ball and a bloody cloth near the incinerator, and noticed the nameplates on their rooms had been swapped. In the trash, Makoto found a DVD which showed Sayaka with her idol group before a tragic scene implied their harm. Monokuma's message suggested that without the school, Sayaka would have nowhere to return to. After viewing this, all students were directed to the red gate on the first floor, leading them to the class trial room, where they would decide their fate. Monokuma summoned the students to the class trial room. They descended in an elevator to a courtroom and stood behind podiums bearing their names, including two for the deceased, Sayaka and Junko, marked by their photographs. Kyoko noticed an extra, unassigned podium, hinting at a possible 16th participant. The trial began, focusing on the knife that ended Sayaka's life. Ai and Sakura recalled seeing Sayaka take a knife from the kitchen the night before, supposedly for protection. Despite accusations against them, Mono assures them that only the real murderer could escape punishment. Makoto argued that Sayaka had taken the knife out of fear. Byakuya suggested the killer had wrestled the knife away from her. Suspicion fell heavily on Makoto, but Kyoko intervened, noting that the killer had tampered with the bathroom door handle, something Makoto wouldn't need to do since he knew how to open it. This led to the revelation that the nameplates on the rooms had been switched, misleading the killer into believing they were entering Sayaka's room. Discussion turned to how the intruder could have entered, with Makoto insisting that Sayaka wouldn't have willingly opened the door. Kyoko then produced a note from Sayaka found on Makoto's notepad, inviting someone to the room. Byakuya speculated that Sayaka had planned to frame Makoto, but her scheme backfired when her intended victim fought back using a decorative sword from Makoto's room. Amidst the debate, Leon denied further evidence, but Kyoko pointed out the numbers 11,037 written in blood near Sayaka's body. These, when viewed upside down, spelled Leon. Makoto pieced together that after being attacked, Sayaka wrote these numbers as she lay dying. Kyoko presented a bloody shirt piece and a broken crystal ball found near the incinerator as further evidence against Leon. It was theorized that Leon, a skilled baseball player, used the crystal ball to activate the incinerator from a distance, attempting to destroy the shirt. As the trial concluded, the voting machine identified Leon as the murderer. Upon his confession, Monokuma initiated a gruesome punishment, tying Leon to a pole on a mock baseball field where he was bombarded with baseballs until he no longer moved. The students, horrified, were reminded by Monokuma of the dire consequences of murder. Afterward, Kyoko visited Makoto, offering some solace by suggesting Sayaka tried to protect him with her final message. Despite the trauma, Kyoko encouraged Makoto to continue forward, appreciating his intuition and resilience. Makoto, touched by Kyoko's support, resolved to carry the memories of Sayaka and the trial with him as he moved ahead. After the first trial, Makoto Nigi was feeling down. While showering, he couldn't stop thinking about the deaths of Sayaka, Junko, and Leon. The next day, Monokuma opened up the second floor of the school, which featured a library and a pool, complete with separate changing rooms. As the students explored, they pondered over various escape plans from this sinister game. Byakuya and Kyoko discovered a laptop in the library. Unfortunately, it was as useful as Aqua from Kono. Meanwhile, Makoto stumbled upon a letter declaring Hope's Peak Academy closed until further notice due to an unspecified problem. Byakuya found some racy novels and commented that they would be a great distraction from the stressful games, which irked the others who couldn't see the fun in their grim situation. During a heated discussion in the library about the elimination game, Chihiro expressed her dislike for the game and her unwillingness to harm her friends. Byakuya, ever the provocateur, mocked her and reminded everyone that they had voted for Leon's death. Mondo stepped up to defend Chihiro, causing tensions to rise further. Kiyotaka tried to calm the situation, but the mood was already sour. Monokuma, always looking for entertainment, complained about the lack of murdering, calling the game boring. Chihiro, upset and feeling distrustful, ran away screaming, which did nothing to lighten the mood. Ai suggested they all go to the pool to relax, but found the changing rooms locked. Monokuma cheerfully explained that only the correct e-handbook could open them, or else a machine gun would give a whole new meaning to poolside fireworks. That night, Makoto caught Tauko spying on Byakuya in the library. He suggested she might want to freshen up, hinting at her noticeable odor. Misinterpreting his advice as a romantic gesture from Byakuya, Tauko dreamily agreed, convinced they were an item destined for a sitcom. The next day, a sauna contest between Mondo and Kiyotaka, which Makoto was dragged into judging, ended not in rivalry but in an unexpected bromance. The two emerged as best buds.
I love you, man. I love you too, bud.
declaring competitions a thing of the past. However, not everyone was in a good mood. Celestia was notably grumpy. Monokuma decided to stir the pot by threatening to reveal everyone's darkest secrets if another murder didn't happen soon. Makoto, whose secret was merely embarrassing childhood bedwetting, doubted anyone would eliminate over such revelations. Yet, the next morning, Makoto was proven wrong when he awoke to the announcement of another death. He rushed to the cafeteria, and soon they discovered Chihiro's body in the girls' locker room, grotesquely displayed and with the words "bloodbath fever" written in blood on the wall. As they investigated, they found several strange clues: Chihiro's missing handbook, mismatched posters, and a missing coffee stain that seemed like someone had cleaned up. Byakuya pointed fingers at Genocider Seo, a notorious murderer known for crucifying his victims and leaving bizarre messages, suggesting that the killer could be among them. AI, panicked, mentioned that Taoko was barricaded in her room, fearing she might be next on Genocider Seo's list. Byakuya remained eerily calm, possibly knowing more than he let on. As the students gathered for the second trial, tension was high, and everyone wondered if they could really catch another killer among them, or if the next joke would be on them. The students gathered in the courtroom, and Monokuma kicked things off by asking them to discuss the murder weapon. Makoto braced himself for a heated non-stop debate where they would use truth bullets to challenge each other's statements. Byakuya, examining the Monokuma file, declared that Chihiro had been eliminated by a blow to the head with a blunt object. Yasuhiro suggested a metal pipe could be the weapon, but Makoto corrected him, noting there was no pipe at the crime scene. Kyoko chimed in, pointing out that the dumbbell found near the body matched the wound on Chihiro's head, causing discomfort among the students, especially AI and Hifumi, given the grim topic. Celestia shifted the focus, arguing that the bloodstain in the girls' locker room meant that's where the murder occurred. Byakuya, confident as ever, claimed he knew who the killer was, accusing Genocider Seo, a revelation that shocked Yasuhiro and AI. Makoto backed Byakuya, referencing a file they found in the library about Genocider Seo's methods. Byakuya detailed the similarities between this murder and the serial killer's usual style, but Hifumi botched the details, which AI corrected. Byakuya then claims that Genocider Seo was actually Taoko Fukawa. AI protested, arguing that Taoko, who faints at the sight of blood, couldn't possibly be a violent killer. Byakuya insisted on his theory, and Makoto confirmed that Taoko has dissociative identity disorder as detailed in the file. In a dramatic turn, Taoko fainted from stress and transformed into mommy Genocider Seo when she woke up, surprising everyone with her brash and loud personality. Kiyotaka was bewildered, asking what was wrong with Taoko, only to receive a risque joke from Seo, who flirted with him. The group struggled to reconcile this new, starkly different personality with the shy Taoko they knew. Byakuya persisted with his accusation, but Genocider Seo playfully agreed, then quickly denied her involvement, asserting her innocence in this case. Despite her claims, the students were skeptical, doubting the word of a known serial killer. Makoto suggested keeping an open mind about other suspects, but Byakuya argued that Seo's method matched the murder scene. Makoto countered, pointing out inconsistencies in the murder's details compared to Seo's typical crimes, like the fact all her victims were men, and she used scissors, not a dumbbell. The debate intensified when Byakuya was forced to explain why he had detailed files on Genocider Seo at his home. Kyoko revealed the extension cord used in the murder came from the library, where Byakuya spent a lot of time. Makoto then realized the murder might have occurred in the boys' locker room, not the girls', recalling a missing coffee stain and mismatched posters as clues. Yasuhiro was stunned by the reveal of Chihiro's actual gender, prompting Monokuma to confirm Chihiro was a boy. This information led Makoto to deduce that Byakuya, surprised by this reveal, couldn't be the killer since he would have known Chihiro's gender if he were guilty. The students then considered how the killer could access both locker rooms. Kyoko found that the e-handbooks of deceased students could be used to enter, but Leon's was broken, implying only a male could have used one to commit the murder. Makoto pieced together clues about Chihiro meeting someone on the night of the murder, indicated by a blue jersey he was carrying. In a tense moment, Mondo slipped up about the jersey's color, which only the killer would know, drawing suspicion onto himself. Kiyotaka leaped to his defense, pleading for Mondo to clear his name. As they pieced together the final moments of Chihiro's life, the evidence against Mondo mounted, and the trial neared its climax, leaving everyone on edge about the true identity of the killer. The truth behind Chihiro Fujisaki's murder unfolds. The culprit is none other than Mondo Oda. In a daring scheme, Mondo swaps items between the boys' and girls' locker rooms to mislead everyone. He uses another student's electronic handbook to enter the girl's locker room, where he stages the murder scene. Chihiro's body is homesomely put with an extension cord, and the phrase bath fever is scrawled on the wall, mimicking the infamous serial killer genocider Seo's style. Mondo tries to destroy the evidence by damaging the electronic handbooks in the sauna. As the students gather to vote, it becomes clear that Mondo is the murderer. His friend Kiyotaka Ishimaru is devastated, unable to grasp why Mondo would commit such a crime. Under pressure, Mondo confesses but struggles to explain his actions fully. The enigmatic bear and mastermind, Monokuma, steps in to tell Chihiro's heart-wrenching backstory. Chihiro, born sensitive and gentle, faced constant pressure to be more manly. Unable to cope, Chihiro initially chose to present as a girl to escape the harsh judgments. However, driven by the fear of his secret being exposed, Chihiro decides to confront his fears and vows to become stronger. He chooses Mondo, known for his toughness and honor, as his mentor. But there's a dark side to Mondo too. Monokuma reveals that Mondo's own secret was the accidental death of his revered older brother during a reckless street race, a secret Mondo desperately guarded. Overwhelmed by guilt and jealousy, seeing Chihiro change for the better while he remains stuck in his guilt, Mondo loses control and eliminates Chihiro. The truth hits everyone hard. As Monokuma sets the stage for Mondo's bizarre and brutal punishment, Kiyotaka tries in vain to intervene. Mondo is strapped to a motorcycle in a circus-like execution scene. The ride spins wildly in a cage until it's a blur, and when it stops, Mondo is gone. All that's left is a small tub of butter, a grim joke from Monokuma about Mondo's fate. In the aftermath, the students grapple with their sorrow and the cruel reality of their situation, realizing just how powerless they are in this deadly game. Monokuma, ever taunting, hints at another mystery, a hidden 16th student, leaving everyone anxious about what other secrets lie within the academy's walls. At Hope's Peak Academy, the aftermath of another class trial unveils new mysteries. Ai Asahina, grieving the loss of her friends, wanders alone and is startled by a bright light in the darkness. Suddenly, Chihiro Fujisaki's face appears,
Oh, hell no!
and AI's screams echo through the hallways. After the trial, a new floor opens up, complete with a game room, art room, and science lab, offering a brief distraction from the gloom. At breakfast, the students gather, but Ishimaru is silent, still stunned by Mondo's grim fate. Monokuma, ever the instigator, corrals everyone into the gym, introducing a shocking new motive, a whopping 10 billion yen
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
for anyone who can commit murder and escape detection. The students are skeptical. After all, who would eliminate for money? Well, maybe except for Byakuya Tagami, who might just add it to his trust fund. Amid the tension, AI reveals she's seen the ghost of Chihiro. The students rush to the public baths, where they discover a laptop containing an AI named Alter Ego, which Chihiro had programmed. Alter Ego, taking on Mondo's appearance, reassures a distraught Kiyotaka, sparking a transformation in him. He now calls himself Kyondo Ishida, claiming Mondo's spirit lives on in him. The others aren't convinced. Kyoko Kirigiri, ever the pragmatist, urges Alter Ego to keep digging for clues. Just when things couldn't get weirder, Alter Ego shows a photo of Leon, Chihiro, and Mondo having a good time. The group suspects Monokuma's trickery, questioning reality. The next day, screams from the bathhouse lead Makoto Nigi to a flustered Hifumi Yamada, who's developed a crush on Alter Ego. It's complicated, he claims, but Kiyotaka isn't having it and a brawl ensues, only stopped by Kyoko's intervention. Kyoko decides to restrict access to Alter Ego, but the drama doesn't stop. The next day, Alter Ego mysteriously vanishes. Accusations fly between Kiyotaka and Hifumi, with Kyoko suspecting a traitor among them. As night falls, chaos ensues with Celestial Ludenberg and Hifumi being attacked by a mysterious justice robot. After a dizzying series of events, including disappearing corpses and a failed robot uprising courtesy of Hagakure, the students regroup, exhausted. They finally find Hifumi whispering the name Yoshihiro with his last breath. And like clockwork, Monokuma announces another class trial. With tensions high, Makoto quips, "Well, at least we don't have to worry about running out of soap with all these bathhouse trips." As the students prepare for the trial, they brace themselves for more twists in Monokuma's twisted game. In a heart-wrenching flashback, we see Hifumi Yamada's final moments as he dies in Ai Asahina's arms. Suddenly, Monokuma's voice cuts through the somber mood, announcing a body's discovery and calling for another class trial. The students suspect Yasuhiro Hagakure might be behind the murders, and some even wonder if Kyoko Kirigiri helped him, though they quickly dismiss the idea since there's no gain in being an accomplice. Makoto Nigi sets out to find Kyoko and Yasuhiro but runs into Kyoko first. She quickly changes the subject from her whereabouts and urges him to gather everyone at the pool area. There, a tense silence hangs until Kyoko swings open a nearby locker to reveal the Justice robot suit stuffed inside, stunning everyone except Celestia Ludenberg. As Sakura Agami and Makoto help Yasuhiro climb out of the suit, Toko Fukawa can't help but mock him for how ridiculous he looks. Yasuhiro claims he was set up. Someone sent him a note, lured him to the locker, then knocked him out and stuffed him into the suit. Byakuya Tagami demands to see the note, but Yasuhiro admits he lost it, which makes AI and Byakuya skeptical of his innocence. During this chaos, Celestia points out Kyoko's odd reaction to finding Yasuhiro in the locker. When Makoto confronts Kyoko about her earlier disappearance, she dismisses it, saying she was investigating something, and quickly shifts focus to the need to examine the bodies. Kyoko and Makoto then inspect the bodies of Kiyotaka and Hifumi, finding a crucial note clutched in Hifumi's hand. As they head to the class trial, Makoto is plagued by doubts about the evidence and the true meaning of Hifumi's dying words, wondering if Yasuhiro really referred to Hagakure or if there's a deeper twist awaiting them. The trial begins with AI and Celestia firmly pointing the finger at Yasuhiro, backed by blueprints and robot parts they claim are his. Yasuhiro, completely bewildered, vehemently denies the accusations, but the evidence seems stacked against him. The group braces for a heated debate to uncover the truth behind the mysterious and tragic events. In a tense moment during the class trial, Makoto Nigi challenges the claim that Yasuhiro Hagakure drew the blueprints for the robot suit. He presents a note with handwriting different from Yasuhiro's as evidence, arguing that Yasuhiro couldn't have altered his handwriting that quickly. He also points out the impracticality of moving bodies while wearing a cumbersome robot suit. Toko Fukawa and Byakuya Tagami nod in agreement, but AI Asahina shifts the discussion to a photo taken by Celestia Ludenberg. Kyoko Kirigiri steps in, urging the group to consider other possibilities, which Celestia dismisses, suggesting that Kyoko, who was also missing at times, might be involved. Kyoko counters by questioning whether the bodies could have moved on their own, catching Celestia off guard. Celestia references Monokuma's announcement of Hifumi's death to discredit her, but Kyoko clarifies the timing of the deaths, prompting Monokuma to confirm he announced each death upon discovery. A breakthrough comes when Makoto mentions that Hifumi's glasses, initially bloodied, were found clean later in the art storage room. Byakuya recalls seeing blood bags in the infirmary, and Toko proposes that Hifumi might have faked his death using the blood. Sakura Agami notes that the art storage room was locked from the inside, adding another layer of mystery. Kyoko then reveals a crucial piece of evidence, a note found in Hifumi's underwear that lists a different meeting time than the one in Yasuhiro's note. Yasuhiro confirms the discrepancy, and Kyoko suggests that Hifumi was trying to sow confusion. Makoto questions the significance of the numbered hammers found at the crime scenes, proposing they were meant to mislead rather than indicate anything about the victims. Celestia presses for the murder weapon's identity, and Makoto points to a clean hammer found hanging on the wall, suggesting that Hifumi might have been an accomplice who couldn't graduate, and the real killer used him. Monokuma ends the debate, leaving open who manipulated Hifumi and committed the murders for the prize money. Makoto, piecing together previous inconsistencies, accuses Celestia of being the mastermind. He demands she show her student handbook, which would disclose her real name, confirming her identity as Tiko Yasuhiro. Caught, Celestia admits her guilt and asks Monokuma to proceed with her punishment. As the unanimous vote seals her fate, Celestia reveals her elaborate plan to use the prize money for a western castle, driven by a desire to escape to a fantasy world. Following her execution, Kyoko hands Makoto the key to where Alter Ego is hidden. Despite the ongoing tension and his unanswered questions about Kyoko's secretive actions, Makoto expresses trust in her. Kyoko then shares her discovery of a secret room in the boys' washroom, which they explore together. Inside, they find the Hope's Peak Academy student register, warning them not to leave. As Makoto reads the register aloud, he's suddenly attacked and knocked unconscious. When he wakes up, the files are gone. Rushing to the gym, he finds Monokuma and Sakura Agami in a fierce showdown with only 7 of the original 15 students remaining in the deadly eliminating game. Sakura Agami confronts Monokuma, declaring she will no longer follow his commands and is ready to fight him. Monokuma warns her about the hostages he holds. Unbeknownst to them, Makoto Nigi overhears their conversation, hiding nearby. The next day, the 4th floor of the school becomes accessible. Sakura, Makoto, and AI Asahina explore the new area, including the chemistry lab and music room, but find that some rooms, like the principal's office, remain locked. When Makoto tries to open the principal's room, Kyoko Kirigiri appears and inquires about the hidden room he mentioned before. Makoto explains that he was attacked when he tried to investigate it and discovered a strange note there. Kyoko warns him to keep quiet about it because of the cameras around. Makoto hesitates to share more, suspecting Sakura might be involved but not wanting to voice his baseless suspicions. When he tells Kyoko he can't divulge more, she reminds him that they agreed to trust each other as a team. Disappointed by his secrecy, she leaves. Frustrated by their lack of progress, Yasuhiro Hagakure suggests they break into the principal's office for clues. However, Monokuma quickly introduces a new rule prohibiting the students from breaking down any locked doors, hinting that something important is hidden there. The students then visit Alter Ego, the AI, who reveals that they might be trapped in the school for life due to a terrible incident that led to the school's lockdown. Alter Ego also suggests that the true principal of Hope's Peak might be behind everything. During this visit, Alter Ego shows them another mysterious photo. Suddenly, Monokuma calls everyone to a gym meeting and directly exposes Sakura as his agent. This revelation shocks everyone except AI, who defends Sakura. Makoto tries to explain that he witnessed Sakura fighting Monokuma, suggesting her alliance was not willingly but only to protect others. The group questions Makoto about the real principal, but Sakura admits she doesn't know more. Feeling betrayed yet remorseful, Sakura asks for forgiveness from her friends and leaves the gym. Her departure triggers a fierce argument between AI and Byakuya Tagami, culminating in AI slapping Tagami for his dismissive attitude. Kyoko intervenes, cautioning Tagami to respect others' feelings, bringing a tense moment to a close. The next day, an argument broke out between AI Asahina and Toko Fukawa after Toko spoke negatively about Sakura Agami. During the argument, AI hurt her hand. When Sakura found out about AI's injury, she yelled loudly, upset by the news. Kyoko Kirigiri later asked Makoto Nigi about his ability to stay kind under stress. She then took him to see Alter Ego, the AI. Alter Ego asked to be connected to the school's network to help the students escape, despite the risk of being discovered by the mastermind. Makoto volunteered to help and took Alter Ego to a secret room on the second floor to connect to the network. The following day, Makoto, Kyoko, and AI found Sakura lifeless in a locked room. Makoto broke the door's glass to open it and they found Sakura had died. It was a mystery how the room was locked from the inside. Monokuma announced another class trial. Ao, shocked, went to find the other students, while Kyoko calmly examined Sakura's body. She noticed Sakura had been hit twice, there was blood mixed with vomit, and a strange powder near her feet. With the remaining students gathered, AI quickly accused Yasuhiro Hagakure, Toko Fukawa, and Byakuya Tagami of being suspects. They were the last 3 people to see Sakura alive, leading AI to believe one of them must be the killer. After several tragic events, Nigi surveys the aftermath. Kirigiri leads him to a room filled with yellow powder and footprints. During the class trial, Monokuma asks if they will lose another student and if the school will end. AI Asahina accuses Tagami, Fukawa, and Hagakure of attacking Sakura Agami, claiming they were summoned to the recreation room by Sakura. Tagami admits he received a note from Sakura, but Hagakure denies going. Fukawa says she saw Hagakure hit Sakura with a bottle. She admits she arrived early, hid in a locker, and witnessed the attack. After Hagakure left, she came out, fell down, and in panic, hit Sakura again with another bottle. As they argue, Asahina insists they quickly find and punish the culprit, which seems odd to Nigi. Nigi recalls a key detail and asks Fukawa about the attack's location. He points out that Sakura's body was found sitting on a chair, not in front of the magazine library as Fukawa mentioned. Tagami then shows a bottle from the chemistry lab. He explains the lab is divided into nutrients, reagents, and poisons. The bottle, labeled as poison, actually contained a protein shake, indicating someone swapped them. The powder spill and the footprints from sneakers match Asahina's, who admits they are hers. Everyone is shocked by her admission, given her close friendship with Sakura. Nigi questions the locked door mystery, suggesting more to the story. Kirigiri reveals new evidence that the yellow powder on Sakura's shoes came from the chemistry lab, suggesting she took the poison herself. Tagami asks why Asahina hid the cause of Sakura's death. Asahina reveals Sakura's will, which states she chose to end her life rather than continue under the pressure of being Monokuma's agent. Monokuma interrupts with the real will, which shocks everyone. It shows Sakura acted under pressure because her family's dojo was held hostage. She chose to die to stop the betrayal among friends. Monokuma then smashes a laptop, destroying potential further evidence. The students read Sakura's letter again, deeply moved by her final act of friendship. As they explored the 5th floor of the school, Asahina and Hagakure stumbled upon a botanical garden filled with gigantic, otherworldly flowers and a quaint chicken coop that seemed oddly out of place. Tagami, looking somewhat frustrated, reported that there were no staircases leading upwards and concluded, "Looks like this building caps at 5 stories. By any chance, is this game taking any volunteers? Because I would love to volunteer some people out for this." Kirigiri, ever the mystery solver, hinted she'd figure it out, but Tagami was quick to challenge her. "You always wander off alone at the worst times. Where were you during those past incidents with Yamada, Seals, and Ogami? And really, who are you?" When Kirigiri remained tight-lipped, Tagami demanded her room key. With a sigh, she handed it over and walked away. Just then, another girl pulled out a knife, surprisingly nonchalant. "I was exploring the 5th floor too and found this. Who leaves knives lying around? Was there a discount on danger?" She passed the knife to Nigi for safekeeping. Suddenly, they received a call from Monokuma, who was visibly upset. "One of you is a thief who stole my priceless treasure. And now, one of you is missing. I bet she's the thief." He stormed off, leaving them in confusion. Nigi was pondering Kirigiri's mysterious nature when she reappeared. "Meet me in the changing room. It's the only spot without prying eyes." In the changing room, Kirigiri revealed a key she'd discovered in the principal's office. Nigi, taken aback, asked how she accessed the locked room. "Thanks to Ogami, I could explore it. It's where I learned about Ikusaba Mukuro, who might be the real mastermind here," she explained, though she admitted lacking proof. Kirigiri planned to investigate further and asked Nigi to distract Monokuma. Nigi agreed, making her promise to retreat if things got dicey. As Nigi engaged Monokuma, trying to divert his attention, Monokuma grilled him about what he and Kirigiri were up to in a camera-free zone. Nigi dodged, just washing up. "But speaking of secrets, what's this treasure about? Was it a limited edition evil teddy?" Monokuma dismissed him and left. Nigi sighed, "I've done my bit. Now let's hope Kirigiri doesn't get caught and turns this key mystery into a key victory." As Kirigiri delved into her investigation, Nigi tried to stay optimistic despite the dangers. One night, as he calmed himself, he thought he saw Kirigiri in front of him holding a knife. By morning, he noticed the knife he had placed in his drawer was missing. Curious and a bit alarmed, he stepped outside his room only to find it eerily quiet. Soon, he discovered all the others gathered together, working on dismantling Monobear with tools. Nigi, taken aback, asked, "What's going on here?" They explained that they had intended to confront Monobear about his stolen treasure, but discovered it was just a toy controlled remotely by someone. They even managed to contact him, which surprised Nigi since he had been asleep. Tagami then suggested they check the principal's office, but found it locked. As he sent the serial killer girl to fetch tools to break in, she returned with startling news of a dead body in the botanical garden. They rushed there and found a woman with a mask on her face. As Fukawa removed the mask, a large explosion erupted. Tagami grimly noted that the victim might be Kirigiri since she was the only one missing. Nigi recalled Kirigiri's warning about a hidden 16th high schooler at the academy. They observed a crest on the dead girl's hand, sparking further mystery. Tagami then discovered another key on her, suspecting it was for the data processing room. Upon using the key, the door swung open to reveal surveillance footage and a TV connected to an antenna. As they prepared to switch on the TV, Monobear reappeared, startling everyone. He revealed that the horrific series of mutual eliminations was being broadcast nationwide. The students protested, arguing that the police should have intervened by now, but Monobear claimed that the public was actually enjoying the show. Ending the shocking revelation, Monobear announced another class trial before leaving. Nigi and his classmates uncover the truth behind a classmate's murder. When Nigi questions Kirigiri about her whereabouts, she reveals she was on the 2nd floor using a skeleton key that could open any room on campus. As they gather with Monobear, they begin discussing the mysterious disappearance of the lady's body from the botanical garden, with suspicions flying all around. Initially, they suspect Kirigiri, who wasn't with them when they were examining Monobear. Kirigiri counters, pointing out that Nigi was also absent during the murder. They establish Nigi was actually present and debate the condition of the body, noting it was only wet on the top. Kirigiri, defending herself, turns the suspicion towards Nigi. Eventually, they conclude the woman wasn't eliminated by the knife in her chest but was struck on the head with a blunt object, leading them to wrongfully accuse Nigi as the culprit. After Monobear sentences Nigi and has him disposed of, he miraculously survives, thanks to alter ego. Finding himself in a garbage-filled area, where he found Annie Visor sitting there too, he vows not to give up. Soon, Kirigiri appears, admitting she came to rescue him. She confesses feeling guilty for prioritizing her goals over his safety. Nigi reassures her, blaming the mastermind for their predicament. Kirigiri reveals shocking news. Mukuro Ikusaba wasn't meant to be murdered. It was supposed to be Nigi. The mastermind planned to frame Kirigiri for Nigi's murder, but the plan failed. Now labeled a hindrance, the mastermind tried to execute Nigi. Kirigiri suggests they escape, using her skeleton key to unlock the door leading to a huge ladder, which they climb. As they ascend, Kirigiri's memories return. She recalls being the super high school level detective and shares that her main goal was to reunite with her father, the principal of Hope's Peak High School. They decide to confront Monobear, who is shocked to see Nigi alive. Monobear lays down a challenge: solve all the school's mysteries or face execution. They accept and leave to regroup with their friends. Upon seeing Nigi, his friends are relieved and apologize for doubting him. Nigi lightens the mood: it's okay. Apparently, the mastermind thinks we're in a bad mystery novel. Let's prove them wrong. He shares details of their final showdown with Monobear, ready to uncover the truth together. Monobear unlocks all doors on the campus, giving everyone access to unravel the mysteries of the school. Nigi and Kirigiri head to the principal's office. Kirigiri tells Nigi that she's already searched the room with her master key and found nothing of importance, but something still bothers her. She shows him a password on the computer. Intrigued, Nigi tries the password, and it works, revealing a hidden room behind a panel. Inside, they find a shocking sight: a skeleton in a box. Kirigiri somberly identifies it as her father's remains. She mentions that only the 16 of them were supposed to be alive in the academy, confirming her father must be dead. While exploring further, Nigi discovers a memory card and inserts it into the computer. They watch a video of them meeting the principal, discussing duties they can't recall. Suddenly, Monobear bursts in and destroys the computer, halting their investigation. Meanwhile, Togami is in the PS office, analyzing the student register. He spots the picture of the 16th high schooler. Monobear briefly enters, places a paper on the floor, and leaves. Back with Nigi, he uses the principal's personal device to open a locker, finding a crystal ball and a journal belonging to Hagakure. In another locker, he finds a journal outlining a plan for the students to live together in the academy, apparently written by Kirigiri. The journal reveals that 2 of their group were previous classmates. Nigi then enters a morgue, where Monobear, appearing again, drops a group photo as a clue. Continuing his search, Nigi discovers another peculiar photo in a different room, showing only 15 students, with him missing. As they gather for the final classroom trial, everyone holds a strange photo they found during their investigations, except Kirigiri. Nigi declares that these photos are just a trap set by the mastermind to turn them against each other. Nigi confronts Kirigiri about her lack of a picture. She explains that she suspected it was a trap and chose not to engage with it. Nigi then shares that he had used the principal's electronic book, found during their investigation, to access Hagakure's and Kirigiri's belongings in a second-floor locker room. He reveals finding a notebook belonging to Kirigiri which detailed a plan to turn the school into a shelter. This proves that the pictures are real, Nigi announces to the group. There's a terrifying truth behind it all: we all have amnesia. These pictures, and the personality shifts they suggest, aren't the only clues pointing to that. He then shows them a memory card he discovered in the principal's office, containing video recordings of each student being interviewed by the principal. This is my proof, Nigi asserts, pointing to the videos as evidence of their forgotten pasts. Nigi goes on to claim that the person who attacked him that night, who bears the same tattoo as the girl found dead in the botanical garden, is the real culprit and mastermind behind their plight. Suspicion initially falls on Kirigiri, known for always wearing gloves, but she reveals her hands are covered in burn marks, clearing her name. With Kirigiri vindicated, Nigi accuses the true mastermind, Inashima Junko, who has been controlling Monobear and pretending to be dead. Shock ripples through the group as Junko reveals herself. "I've been waiting for this moment, for people like you to expose the truth," Junko declares proudly. She then reveals a shocking twist: Mukuro and I were twins, she was the physically adept older sister. The revelations leave everyone reeling as they grapple with the true extent of the deception they've been subjected to. Junko and Ashima revealed to the students that she and Mukuro Ikusaba were twin sisters and the true high schoolers of Hope's Peak Academy. The students, puzzled, asked why they didn't share the same last name and questioned if Junko had really eliminated her own sister. Junko explained that Mukuro was unfit to be the principal, a role necessary to oversee the students, due to lacking the necessary qualities. Instead, Junko assumed the role of a student, ultimately betraying and eliminating Mukuro to maintain her cover. Junko then shocked them by showing footage of the outside world, now in complete chaos. Genocider Seo, one personality of Toko Fukawa, confirmed this as she had retained her memories, being distinct from Toko's main personality. It was then revealed that the students' missing memories were of 2 years spent together at the academy. Junko coldly informed Togami that his family had been destroyed. She challenged the students to recall their lost 2-year memories to solve the mysteries. Despite their efforts, none could remember. The first year had been positive, but everything changed a year ago when a global catastrophe prompted the school to convert into a shelter, unknowingly trapping the students. The shelter meant to protect you became a prison, Junko declared, revealing that she manipulated the broadcasts of their actions using hijacked signals. After eliminating the headmaster, she erased their memories and initiated the deadly game, even sacrificing her sister. Kirigiri speculated that Junko couldn't have orchestrated such extensive plans alone, suggesting an organization might be behind her. Junko smirked and claimed it was all her own doing, motivated by her philosophy of despair. Hagakure, panicking, pleaded for mercy, which Monobear flatly refused. Nigi stood firm, telling Junko, "I don't buy it. You might sell despair, but we're not buying. Do you offer refunds?" In a final showdown, Junko Inishima gives the students a choice between hope and despair. She tells them that if everyone votes for hope, they can leave the academy, but if even one person votes for despair, they all must stay. She also announces that one student will face a terrible execution, and she chooses Makoto Nigi. Junko suggests that sacrificing Nigi would allow the others to live peacefully in the academy. Despite this threat, Nigi uses his hope to inspire everyone. He reminds Kirigiri of her father, the principal, who never gave in to despair, suggesting she has the same strength in her. Inspired by Nigi, Kirigiri regains her hope. Nigi's ability to inspire others earns him the title of Ultimate Hope. When it's time to vote, all the students choose hope, including Junko, who calls herself the ultimate despair. She then undergoes the ultimate punishment, leaving behind a switch that allows the students to escape. Filled with hope, Nigi and the others use the switch to leave the academy and step into the uncertain outside world. After the credits, there's a hint that their challenges aren't over as Monomi says she hopes to meet the group soon. Now, if you thought the school was bad, well, the outside isn't really any better either. Humanity has been indeed struggling against despair for a while. This status has changed drastically thanks to Makoto defeating Junko, which gave a huge breathing room for humanity to turn the table on despair forces. Despite that, despair has kept on existing, which led the top dogs of the Future Foundation to finally meet for the first time in years. It might sound initially about how to systematically eliminate the remnants of despair, but to discuss the unusual case of Makoto, who's been accused of betraying the Foundation. Some members, namely Maya Gekigahara, were concerned that the building where they're at might get attacked if news about the trial came out, especially with Makoto being a popular figure among the low ranks of the Foundation. As such, the meeting was held in a remote building which is heavily reinforced to assure that they won't get any surprise attacks. Despite that, Andu Haruka couldn't shake the idea that despair will still attack them even if the map isn't visible on the map. One thing led to the other, and everyone there shifted their focus from Makoto and the threat that the remnants of despair still posed to them to throwing yo mama jokes at one another. That was the case until the hero we didn't ask for, Munakata Kaioyusuke, arrived to the meeting to express his utter disappointment in everyone there, just like your average Asian parents. Kaioyusuke was so disappointed he approached Tengen on top of the table, before dismissing this spiel and declaring the beginning of the trial of Makoto, who's already on his way on a helicopter. Before getting to his trial, Kaioyusuke proceeded to mention who were the despair remnants that Makoto had allegedly hid. To make matters worse, these 15 remnants are some of the top commanders that worked under Junko, who are some of the most dangerous members of despair. If that were true, then not even Makoto's title as the super high school level hope would save him from an execution. By the time the group had finished discussing their means to interrogate Makoto, the latter arrived at the room, where he was immediately arrested then punched so badly by Sakakura, much to Kirigiri and Asahina's outrage. And he could have eliminated the boy if things didn't get too chaotic to the point where Kaioyusuke dismissed the meeting, especially with Makoto being in no shape to answer any questions at all. If that beating wasn't enough, Kirigiri and Asahina were also treated as co-conspirators as well. The two were suspected to the point that they were denied the right to even check on Makoto. Although they were in different branches, Asahina insisted that she help Kirigiri in her usual enthusiasm. Elsewhere, Yukizome obliged Kaioyusuke's orders to rest briefly before heading to treat Makoto's wounds, where she revealed that she was a teacher before becoming a doctor. When asked about the reason he stood for the remnants of despair, Makoto responded that he figured that these people have talked about hope that this world might be saved one day. For her part, Yukizome believed that Kaioyusuke was also seeking justice just like Makoto, except they're both having different approaches in these cruel times. In her eyes, Yukizome believes that defeating the remnants of despair cannot be achieved by being nice, but rather through a strong dose of American democracy. Just kidding. Yukizome believed that achieving peace can only be done if both Makoto and Kyoyusuke's hopes need to work together to save the world. Meanwhile, Kirigiri left the restroom to find Ryota from the Foundation Council waiting for Chairman Tengen. Before Kirigiri could ask a question, an earthquake did hit the region for a moment, which made Asahina to suddenly open a door that revealed cops with twisted necks inside. Outside the building, however, Yasuhiro lost his new crystal ball to bear witness of an incoming despair assault over the hidden facility, where every entrance, shelter, elevator, and exit of the building have been taken out, to the surprise of everyone there. If that wasn't enough, everyone at the Foundation members were in disarray and immediately began to suspect that Makoto had leaked their location to Despair. As such, Kyoyusuke ordered that everyone should stay in place and contact HQ for reinforcements. Little did he know that all the security guards in the buildings had been eliminated. Just as Great Gazu began to assure everyone that they're more than capable of dealing with any incoming threats, a tear gas bomb got thrown in the room, which made everyone lose consciousness. The next thing that Makoto knew after that was waking up with everyone else, with a bracelet that had a timer on it, just like everyone else in the room. It didn't take them long to figure out what's going on. Monokuma came back to put them through another series of trials to get rid of one another. Makoto was horrified when he saw that, as he believed that Inashima Junko should have been long gone already. As Makoto refused to join the game, Kyoyusuke began to wonder about where Yukizome is, only to find out that she's been the first to get eliminated.
Yukizome wa doko da?
Thus marking the beginning of the game that will conclude Makoto and Despair's story. Kyoyusuke was devastated by this sight, so he made it clear to Makoto that he should retire from life altogether this instant if he really wants to save hope. Amidst all that, Monokuma proceeded in explaining the rules of this game, from the purpose of the timer on each bracelet and the winning conditions of this game, to the forbidden movements and the attempts to take off the bracelets that will inject whoever's doing any of that with poison. Just like the previous game, this one is also being broadcasted to the entire world. While everyone was still shocked, a robot came into the scene for Gekigahara to assure everyone that she won't let anyone hack into the future Foundation's system, only to end up getting hacked and humiliated anyway. Once Monokuma excused himself, everyone was left in a fury, but they were still determined that it would take far more than that to threaten the future Foundation. While Kirigiri kept on searching for clues around the room, Gekigahara kept on complaining about how she didn't foresee that they might ever get hacked from the inside, thus confirming that there really is a traitor among them. Before long, Sakakura got back to trying to force Makoto to admit to being a traitor. Asahina and Ryota defended Makoto, which made Sakakura punch Ryota for his defiance. Little did Sakakura know that Bandai got injected with poison for bearing witness to violence. Kimura tried to save him, but it would all be for naught because Bandai is now a goner. Kirigiri was quick to realize that, which made Gekigahara ask everyone else to check for their forbidden actions to become aware of them. The reasoning behind this thought is sound, but it was immediately opposed by a skeptical Raruka and Kirigiri, who argued that someone's forbidden action might be revealing his forbidden action, Seeing that everyone got caught in a predicament, and with no way to stop the game itself, Kyoyusuke thought that it'd be best to get everyone to pick the culprit through majority vote, which made the vast majority vote against Makoto. When Makoto didn't express willingness to cooperate, Sakakura and Kyoyusuke resorted to bringing their weapons to get rid of Makoto, only to find Great Gazu in their way. Amidst this standstill, gas did spread all over the room, which gave Makoto enough room to escape with Asahina, with Gekigahara and Great Gazu buying them time to do so. As for Makoto himself, it seems that his forbidden action was running, which made Asahina frustrated that she decided to carry this dead weight of a man on her back and run instead. Kirigiri, however, stayed behind hoping that she'll buy some more time for Makoto. She was initially en garde for having Tengen approaching her, but she relented when he assured her that he has no intentions to hurt her. Meanwhile, Asahina and Makoto have reached a crossroad, where they both bore witness to the newly arrived Kyoyusuke and Gazu fighting over the fate of Makoto. While they were at it, Gekigahara arrived at the scene to get the runaways to follow her. Before she could do that, Asahina threw a broken fire extinguisher at Kyoyusuke, while Gazu attempted to jump on the floor with his entire body like your epileptic brother in a rave. A brief hunt proceeded for a moment before Makoto and the others escaped safely. Despite that, Gazu was determined that Kyoyusuke is scheming something, which became a pressing matter with the sleeping time drawing near. For her part, Asahina was worried at what's going to happen now, especially after recalling all the awful experiences she's been through that last time. Fortunately for her, Makoto was there to remind her that he's by her side, as well as Kirigiri. Seeing this, Gazu assured Makoto that the director was glad that he came to the foundation, for he will change it for the better. Speaking of which, Kaio Yusuke learned from Sakakura that everyone is now prioritizing themselves, to which he expressed that his objective remains the same, which is wiping out despair.
お前こそが俺らの希望だ。お前さえ生き残れば、未来期間は再生できる。
For that reason, Sakakura promised that he's going to protect Kaio Yusuke, for he's the Foundation's hope. It's finally time that everyone wakes up from their sleeping, to which Makoto found his hands in blood, while Asahina stabbed in the chest and in a pool of her own blood. In the wake of his and Gekigahara's shock, the two were relieved to see that Asahina is still alive. And that the stain on her clothes was just some tomato sauce. However, Gazu wasn't so lucky up there. Makoto felt bitter about this loss, especially that Gazu was the one to clash with Kyosuke for his sake. Elsewhere, Ruruka was enjoying herself with Izaoi's company. As for Kirigiri, she got stuck with Tengen and Ryuta, where she had her guards up against the old man for not looking too concerned. Kaio Yusuke, on the other hand, was stuck with Sakakura, who couldn't help but get on Sakakura's nerves by expressing how glad he is for not sitting with the attacker. More importantly for Kaio Yusuke, there are far worse outcomes than death in this game. Although saddened by the loss of Gazu, Makoto has set his next objective to protecting the rest of his teammates from having any more victims. To achieve that, Asahina left the task of capturing the attacker to Makoto. As for reaching out to others in the building, Gekigahara had a plan of her own, as she got through Monomi to retrieve a map of the building to get in contact with everyone else inside. On their way to the broadcasting room, Makoto noticed that Gekigahara could not turn right. As she panicked that her forbidden action had been revealed, Makoto assured her that he's not going to use this revelation against her by showing off his own forbidden action. Asahina followed suit by revealing that being kicked or punched is her forbidden action. Amidst this moment of bonding, Asahina noticed that someone is getting closer, so she decided to lure this person away, with Gekigahara following suit, completely unaware that Seiko is crawling her way to them. Outside the building, Yasuhiro kept on calling for Kirigiri and the others, only for his calls to be answered by an attack helicopter, until he got himself holding onto the edge of the building's balcony somehow. Speaking of Kirigiri, she didn't hesitate to proceed with her usual task of being a detective. After all, there was someone that got eliminated while they were unconscious. Seeing this, Tengen and Ryuta decided to tag along. Ryuta was more concerned about the reasoning that made Kaio Yusuke try to get rid of Makoto more than committing to find who the attacker is, before beginning to crack under pressure when he realized that this so-called game is being broadcasted to the public. By the time Kirigiri reminded Ryuta that he's not able to trust anyone enough to show off his forbidden action, Makoto began to talk to everyone in the building about the recent developments he came across, from the elimination of Gazu to discussing the chain of events that led him to being accused of treason, which all started when Makoto met with Kamukura Izuru. According to Makoto, the remnants of despair used to be normal people who laughed and played and fought with each other until they met with Inashima Junko. Makoto also revealed that there was a way to save these remnants by rehabilitating them through the New World program, and he would have succeeded in that if he didn't run across some obstacles along the way. Makoto concluded his speech by reminding everyone of the importance of believing in each other, and by revealing his very own forbidden action as a sign of goodwill. Sakakura didn't like the speech, but Kaio Yusuke did, although he found it hollow, as he believed that Makoto speaks of hope without knowing what true despair is. As such, Kaio Yusuke went to deal with Makoto himself, while Sakakura decided to deal with Makoto's friends. Ruruka and Izaoi also shared the same opinion, but they prioritized their very own safety instead of going on a witch hunt like the one that Kaio Yusuke started. As the two were enjoying themselves just like every dumb couple in your favorite slasher horror movie, Seiko came into the scene.
出たな、ぼっち女。どうせあんたが裏切り者なんでしょ。
Ruruka began to accuse Seiko of being a traitor by making sure she keeps on opening up some old wounds between them. Seiko got increasingly frustrated at these allegations, to the point that she consumed certain drugs that made her exponentially stronger, so much that she managed to catch a dagger attack from Izaoi with her teeth. From afar, Kizakura Koichi was enjoying this entire pandemonium taking place, before leaving to meet with a certain girl. Elsewhere, Tengen and Ryuta kept on discussing how aware both Makoto and Kyoyusuke are of each other's hope, albeit the latter is outright refusing to believe the former. While Kirigiri was examining her surroundings, however, she barely managed to dodge a chair thrown at her by Sakakura. Makoto on the other hand got cornered by a bloodthirsty Kyoyusuke who kept on speaking further violence rather than peace. He still got the chance to talk with Makoto, however, where he couldn't help but express how he found Makoto's claims about hope to be nothing but empty words. Even more shockingly for Makoto, Kyoyusuke claimed that Makoto is far too dangerous to be left alone, especially if he were allowed to speak freely. For Kyoyusuke, the only way to achieve that would only be through iron and blood. Before figuring out Makoto's fate, Kirigiri was having her own fair share of trouble with Sakakura, who believed that Makoto's friends must also be supporters of Despair's remnants too, and not even Tengen and Ryuta's appeals could convince him otherwise. Heck, he even beat them both for standing by Kirigiri. Ruruka and Izayoi kept on running away from a certain behemoth on the other hand. Despite Izayoi's best attempts to deter Seiko, he wasn't successful in this task. Back to Sakakura, he found himself outclassed by Tengen in a physical fight, despite being the super high school boxer, much to Kirigiri's surprise. After tying up the big guy and hoping that he wouldn't be able to follow them up, Asahina and Gekigahara arrived at the scene, where they were glad that everyone there was safe and sound. That didn't stop Ryuta from feeling bitter towards himself for his inability to save everyone. But Kirigiri and Asahina still managed to make him feel better after reminding him that he can be useful by being himself. Now with that out of the way, Kyoyusuke made his own public announcement of capturing Makoto and his will to execute him. Asahina panicked after hearing this, but Kirigiri figured that Kyoyusuke was setting up a trap to lure them in as well. As such, Kirigiri decided to head there on her own, assuming that Kyoyusuke must still be willing to negotiate. Tengen, however, decided to come along, since he knew that he's the only way that can win over Kyoyusuke in negotiations. While these developments were taking place, Makoto woke up to his older armed Asian counterpart. Kyoyusuke informed Makoto of what he's doing, as well as figuring that he was not the attacker. His reasoning behind his actions was to deny the attacker any chance of using anyone as a sacrificial pawn to end the game. If the attacker succeeds in emerging as the hero of this game, they'll be able to infiltrate the future foundation and destroy it from within. And to make sure that they succeed in that endeavor, the attacker will be more than willing to use Makoto to further entrench the roots of despair inside the foundation. For that reason, Kyoyusuke still insisted that both the attacker and those that can be useful to them, namely Makoto, must be eliminated. After a brief moment of back and forth, Tengen arrived just in time to get Kyoyusuke to let go of his sword, thus beginning their round of negotiations. Tengen figured that Yukazome's murder had driven Kyoyusuke nuts, and seeing how strong-headed the vice chairman of the foundation is, Tengen launched pinning attacks on Kyoyusuke, while Asahina exploited this opportunity to take Makoto to safety. Before Ni could leave, however, Tengen entrusted the safety of everyone in the building to him once this ordeal is over. Amidst these new developments, Kirigiri and Ryuta arrived at the meeting room, where they found Koichi there. Seeing that he was avoiding answering her questions, Kirigiri kept her guards up and proceeded to inspect the crime scene, where Yukazome was lying low. As she was engaged in discussing the motives that made someone start a messed up game as this in the first place, Sakakura managed to free himself. On his way, he took notice of Asahina, Gekigahara and Makoto running in the corridor, so he followed them, only to find Kyoyusuke fighting with Tengen. Seeing that Kyoyusuke ordered him to keep on following Makoto, the big guy decided to relent. With that out of the way, Kyoyusuke and Tengen proceeded in their duel, where Tengen tried to convince his younger counterpart that his fanaticism will get him nothing but despair, until he decided to get himself down the bridge with Kyoyusuke. In the end, it would all be for naught, since not only Tengen is now fatally injured, but Kyoyusuke survived this. Ruruka and Izayoi were also having their fair share of trouble with Seiko. Ruruka tried to appeal to Seiko to stop harassing them since they used to be friends, but didn't take long for the trio to begin accusing each other menacingly of treason. Still, Izayoi could do little but just buy some time for himself and Ruruka to get some distance from Seiko, who managed to break through the door with her brute force. Makoto and the others on the other hand were luckier, since they managed to get to relative safety. Or so they thought, as Gekigahara noticed that there's someone coming closer to them. As she was aware of both Makoto and Asahina's, Gekigahara decided to deal with the incoming threat instead. Her opponent was Sakakura, and yet Gekigahara didn't shy away from coming guns blazing at the boxer. Although she was surprised to see that Sakakura is still alive, she tried to unleash one of her 7 secret weapons, only to find herself getting kicked down unconscious by Sakakura. Or so the latter thought, because it turned out that Gekigahara is actually a robot. controlled by a girl called Minakatawa. In order to understand what's going on with Ruruka, Izaoi, and Seiko, we'll be checking on how the trio got to know each other in the first place. It all started on a rainy day when the much younger Seiko rushed out of school to save a dog and her puppy after getting hit by a car outside. Despite her best effort, she wasn't able to save the female dog. Although deeply saddened by this, Ruruka came in to express how impressed she was in Seiko's ability to save the puppy instead. Eventually, Seiko was surprised to learn that both Ruruka and Izaoi have been considering her as a friend.
ルルカと聖子ちゃんはもうお友達じゃない。
Or so she thought, because she realized later that she became too dependent on Ruruka to the point where she's being taken advantage of. Right now, Seiko found herself having to fight Izaoi until one of them remains alive. Initially, Seiko found herself unable to come anywhere close to attack Izaoi until she suddenly figured out where Ruruka was by smelling sweets. In fact, Ruruka used to appreciate that Seiko was willing to do anything for her until that changed into utter disdain and hatred because Seiko never ate her sweets, even though Seiko made it clear that that will make her retire from life altogether because of a treatment she's taking. Just as things were about to look disastrous for Ruruka, she took notice that Seiko's forbidden move would be allowing others to step in her shadow. Elsewhere, a similar fight had already reached its conclusion. But before Tengen could peace out to become king of the afterlife, he insisted that extinguishing despair through war alone will be as futile as kicking a dead horse, which is why he started the Kamakura project to rehabilitate the remnants of despair. Hearing this, Kaiusu concluded that Tengen is the attacker. Tenga tried to change this buffoon's mind by going as far as to tell him who the attacker is and revealing his forbidden move, which is to answer a question with a lie. Seeing this, the dead horse that Tengen has been kicking finally believed him. Except not really, as Kaiusu still proceeded in being the dead horse that he is and eliminated Tengen, at the cost of losing an eye. On the other hand, Asahina kept herself close to a dead horse of her own that needed so much emotional support, until Sakakura came in their way through the wall. Makoto tried to grow a pair and stand for himself, but Asahina decided to do so on his behalf, as she began to mock the former super high school boxer for using weapons for fighting. Back to Izaoi, his attempt to search for a way to further weaken Seiko have been put to a halt, because a sudden explosion that Yasuhiro has been the cause of revealed to him something far more important than having to deal with Seiko, which is a hidden door of Monokuma. Speaking of Seiko, her situation became completely so untenable that Ruruka began to blackmail her. Ruruka expressed that she'd spare Seiko if she eats sweets or publicly declare that she's willing to get rid of Kyoyusuke. Not wanting to die from consuming sweets or betray the man that had saved her after getting expelled from Hope's Peak, Seiko made for an obvious choice by consuming every bit of drugs she had to further strengthen herself and begin destroying every light source. As Seiko moved on to try to break the glass that's standing between her and Ruruka, the two began to reminisce about how they used to be on good terms, until everything fell apart. By that moment, Seiko broke through and proceeded to hunt Ruruka, and not even the ongoing fight between Sakakura and Asahina could stand in her way. By the time Seiko tried to approach an injured Asahina, Manaka managed to get Gekigahara back in control to unleash a volley of missiles against Seiko and Sakakura, thus buying time for Asahina and Makoto to run away, with herself included. After waking up from Gekigahara's bombardment, Seiko kept on thinking in utter bitterness and sadness about where she went wrong. As she held onto a piece of candy, the timer on her bracelet was done, and so she fell asleep once again. In the end, Seiko would never be able to eat that candy because the attacker managed to get rid of her. Amidst these unfortunate developments, Yasuhiro kept on predicting that things will have a happy ending, as he believed in his 30% accuracy fortune telling. Meanwhile, Kyoyusuke got back to the meeting room, where he checked on Yuzukome's corpse and began to reminisce about the good old days he had with her and Sakakura and their ambitions to restore order in Hope's Peak High School. Now, however, all these plans that the three had are in shambles. Seeing that there's no coming back from this mess now, Kyoyusuke used his sword to stab Yukizome. Elsewhere, an already exhausted Makoto woke up only to find Kirigiri sitting unalive next to him, and a bloodthirsty Kyoyusuke pointing his sword at him. As he desperately tried to defend himself, Kirigiri leaned next to him and spoke, thus leading Makoto to wake up from this nightmare. Although Asahina and Gekigahara were relieved that Makoto is safe, the latter was aware there was someone that got eliminated while they were asleep. Meanwhile, Kirigiri, Ryuta and Koichi have gathered around Gazu's corpse after discovering its whereabouts. Instead of celebrating that they have survived this round, Kirigiri opted to search for the corpse of the third victim, with Ryuta following suit. It didn't take her long to find what she's looking for. To her and Ryuta's surprise, Izaoi was laying low with one deep stab to his chest. If that wasn't enough, Koichi alerted the detective to Seiko's corpse pinned inside the wall with one stab to the chest as well. Understandably, everyone there was appalled by the audacity of the attacker, since he was allowed to kill just one person at a time. While Kirigiri was taking notes of what she found so far, Ruruka came into the scene begging for help. While things were bleak for Ruruka and the others, fortune started to shift for Makoto and his companions, as he managed with Asahina to help Gekigahara connect into the building's security system once again. This joy couldn't last forever, however, as Makoto noticed immediately that Tengen is now a goner, but perhaps the most shocking revelation to him was that this was all Kyoyusuke's doing. Seeing that Makoto was devastated by this turn of events, Manaka decided to win him over by standing by Makoto's side. Before realizing that Makoto is just a loser that makes girls to solve his problems, in other words. For now, though, everyone began to think of a way to beat this game, only for Makoto to get food for Asahina's hatred towards the game's rules. He concluded that if this is no game as Kyoyusuke said, they can still figure out a way to destroy it from outside. In order to do that, Gekigahara informed Makoto that it could be possible to do it through the communication room, which they proceeded with their plan in earnest. Once they got there, figuring out how to connect to the system was left for Gekigahara to figure out. The first contact that Makoto managed to establish was with Byakuya Tagami from the Future Foundation, who was not caught in this predicament. To Makoto's surprise, the rest of the organization was oblivious to what's happening, especially that he thought that Monokuma was broadcasting the game to the entire world. Despite that, Tagami had already sent a peacekeeping squad to Jabberwock Island to annihilate the remnants of despair regardless of the outcome of Makoto's trial, and now he'll come himself with more reinforcements to Makoto's rescue. While Makoto and Asahina were celebrating the news that rescue is on the way, Tagami hasn't mentioned that the Gekigahara that did set up the call has been reported dead, thus making the one that's with them now fake. Tagami was also concerned about Manaka's reaction if he were to expose her now, so he decided to not talk about it now until the opportunity presents itself, especially that Manaka is indeed a despair remnant. To his credit, Tagami knew where Manaka was and had the right people to deal with Manaka in Toa City, namely Fukawa and Makoto's younger sister Kamaru. Elsewhere, Ruruka was so badly shaken by losing Izayoi that she didn't want to stay in the room that he's in. Kirigiri refused to let her leave, while assuring the self-admitted useless girl that it's all part of her plan to avenge Izayoi. The stage has now been set for the actual fight to take place, but how will it go? During Inashima Junko's funeral, Manaka promised that she's going to make despair rise again. Right now, however, Manaka is unaware of the plans that Future Foundation is making against her. Some of Future Foundation members were rehabilitated despair remnants, but they still didn't wish any harm to come to Manaka. As such, they made sure they made Kamaru aware of this. For her part, Kamaru is just a normal high schooler who got separated from her family during the beginning of the despair outbreak. During the peak of Despair's atrocities, Kamaru found herself forced to fight against Despair, which got her to fight eventually by Fukawa's side. Although they're strong themselves, they found themselves this time horrifically outnumbered by the sheer numbers of Monokumas. Despite that, Fukawa kept on fantasizing about how she'll get Tagami interested in her and start a family with him after defeating this horde of Monokumas. Speaking of Tagami, he felt that a certain pervert was thinking about him, but that didn't stop him from hearing about the report he was receiving earlier. Tagami was also concerned about Makoto's earlier report too, combined with the absence of any activities based on other agents' reports. Tagami called all the Foundation's agents to keep up the good work to hunt the remnants of Despair down, while promising that he will carry on the will of the Future Foundation as long as he's alive. By then, Kamaru and Fukawa managed to enter Manaka's HQ. As they went deeper inside the building, they found themselves welcomed by Manaka, who got them in a fight with a horde of armed-to-the-teeth robots and Monokumas. Before the fight could even start, however, Manaka surrendered. In her own account, Manaka figured that she'll lose even if she fought to the best of her ability. Once Manaka's HQ has been obliterated, Kamaru and Fukawa discovered that Manaka is in her private room, which can be described in the following way. When asked about her role in the ongoing problem, Manaka admitted that she's just a lurker, who has gotten rid of Gekigahara to make sure she sees what Makoto is doing up close, but she had no direct involvement with the attacker or directing the game altogether. Still, Manaka had no intention of ever revealing who's behind this mess. Fukawa tried to force an answer out of Manaka, only to find herself and Kamaru attacked by some Monokumas. Except not really, because the Monokumas carried Manaka's private room and flew with it to outer space. Fukawa tried to get inside the room to further question Manaka, but Kamaru convinced her to step down with her. To ensure that they're safe, Kamaru managed to reprogram the Monokumas on the building's ceiling to catch them with a stretched carpet, which ended up successfully. On the other hand, Makoto and Asahina were waiting for Tagami when they saw that Gekigahara was acting strangely and calling Makoto as her brother, which after a bit of a confusion, Kamaru revealed herself and told her brother that there's one of the former survivors of the previous game will become unalive because of him. Tagami also heard the same message from Fukawa, but dismissed it immediately. Makoto, however, was worried that since Tagami, Fukawa and Yasuhiro are safe outside, it'll be either Kirigiri or Asahina. A few years earlier, Koichi was fighting on the front line with a fellow former teacher. As they kept on advancing and reminiscing about the good old days, they too got attacked. Koichi had survived the attack, but his comrade wasn't as lucky as he got literally obliterated. Speaking of getting attacked, Yasuhiro couldn't get rid of that attack helicopter that kept on firing at him just like your obsessive ex, or that was the case until Tagami came in just in time to eliminate the threat, much to Yasuhiro's delight. After a brief argument, the two immediately began moving explosive bags in front of the buildings, while Tagami kept on hoping that Makoto would stay alive until he arrives to save him. Again, speaking of being delighted, Makoto was the same during his call with his younger sister, but he couldn't maintain that for long, since he had to leave the room as fast as possible with Asahina due to Gekigahara's strange behavior. Before they could catch a breath, however, they came across Kyoyusuke, who was already bloodthirsty to take down Makoto, even if that meant taking down Gekigahara, who stepped in. What he didn't know, however, was that Gekigahara is actually a robot that has the ability to reassemble herself and retaliate back against Kyoyusuke. Makoto capitalized on this much-needed breathing space and decided to run away with Asahina to meet up with Kirigiri. For her part, Kirigiri was busy with her investigation, and not even the massive amount of traps found by Koichi could dissuade her from her holy crusade. Just as she began to notice some strange scratches on the ground, Ruruka found no better time to slip over the ammunition but now. This made Koichi begin to accuse Ruruka of being suspicious, since she was planning on leaving Future Foundation to start her own organization at some point. By the time he finished asking her about that, Sakakura arrived at the scene, and not even the knowledge that Izaoi's elimination could dissuade him from eliminating Kirigiri himself. After knocking everyone unconscious, Sakakura began closing in with a knife to unalive Kirigiri, except that Koichi came in his way. He figured that since he never punched anyone since this ordeal started, Sakakura's forbidden movement was to attack people with his bare hands. In exchange for this revelation, Koichi revealed that he's not allowed to open up his left hand under any circumstances. To add insult to injury, Koichi pointed out that since Yukizome's passing, there was no one that liked that dead weight of a vice chairman, and that there was no one that he could rely on other than a boxing gorilla, namely Sakakura. Hearing this, Sakakura got so furious that he attacked Koichi, only to find himself falling into a trap that got marked by Koichi earlier. Now that Sakakura is pinned down, Kirigiri tried to resume her investigation. Ruruka, however, had another say in the matter as she tried to obliterate the ground below her. Just as Kirigiri was on the verge of falling into oblivion, Koichi came into the rescue, but that did cost him dearly as he did his forbidden move in order to make sure he saved Kirigiri and kept his promise to her father. Frustrated that Kirigiri is still alive, Ruruka tried to get Sakakura to join her side by feeding him some sweets, which seemed to be working well initially, until it became clear that it didn't. When Sakakura began to threaten to get rid of everyone, Kirigiri revealed that Izaoi got eliminated by none other than Ruruka. Although she was not the attacker, she was not willing to let anyone escape the building, for she'll lose her life if anyone did. And to ensure that Izaoi doesn't leave, she forced him to do his forbidden action, which is eating food. I know what you're thinking, how could she figure that out when Izaoi was stabbed? It was because the weapon that he was stabbed with was his own, which makes it seem like a cover-up for the actual reason that Kirigiri discovered by licking Izaoi's saliva.
Brother,
Now that Sakakura heard of this entire story, and that the way out of the building is right in front of him, he began to force his way outside despite Ruruka's protest, while Kirigiri and Ryuta went further into the building. When asked about what Koichi's reasoning was to protect her, Kirigiri replied that it was because she's a detective. Outside the building, Tagami managed to pave a way inside the building, but he didn't allow Yasuhiro to get in, nor any of his men to touch anything in. Except that one of them did, which exploded the building and made it collapse. Unaware of what's the reason behind the explosion, Sakakura decided to turn a blind eye to it because he was going to leave the building. Or so he thought, because when he opened the door, he found himself in front of an underwater window. For her credit, Kirigiri figured out what's going on, as she believed that the entire section of the building that they're in is below water. As for why they were placed underwater, it was likely to prevent outsiders from intervening in the game, or more importantly, to frame Kyoyusuke as the culprit, since he would have noticed that due to his involvement in the construction of this building. Ryuta refused to believe that Kyoyusuke is the mastermind behind all this, but he was also skeptical of Makoto being helpful. Kirigiri came in her friend's defense and made it clear that when needed Makoto could be more useful than anyone else in the building. While she was speaking well of Makoto behind his back, Ryuta informed her that he had just arrived with Asahina. Speaking of Kaioyusuke, it took him a grueling and a long fight with Gekigahara to ultimately emerge victorious, as he kept on repeating in his delusional mind that Napoleon is always right. By the time he was done with the fighting, Sakakura caught up with him and asked him to keep on going. For now, Makoto and his fellows were sitting around to brief each other about the new developments. Although Makoto was worried sick about the fact that a close person of his might get eliminated because of him, Kirigiri in particular assured him that everyone around him will always be the source of hope that he'll need to keep on fighting. In this brief moment of serenity, Sakakura kept on walking ahead with Kaioyusuke, where he noticed the sudden changes he had, as well as the injuries he received. Kaioyusuke proceeded in telling his comrade about the good old days they used to have and how proud he was that Sakakura kept on following him up until now. But the moment Sakakura tried to tell something to this new chairman, he got promptly executed because Kaioyusuke became too paranoid of everyone at this point, so much that Kaioyusuke blamed despair for making him eliminate a good friend of his. What Kaioyusuke wasn't aware of was the damage he further inflicted on Ruruka, who saw everything from a corner, causing her severe in the process. Now that she's in the safe, she began to recollect her memories about how she got rid of Izaoi. Although he assured her time and again that he'll never betray her, Ruruka still found a way to eliminate him by forcefully feeding him, which Izaoi didn't consider that as a betrayal even though he was losing his life because he's As she kept on convincing herself that she did nothing wrong, Ruruka was also terrified of what's going to happen next, especially since time is running out. By then, Makoto managed to secure his position thanks to Asahina and Ryuta's help. However, there's no real guarantee that they'll be safe while they're asleep. As such, Kirigiri made sure to remind Makoto to never lose hope no matter what. By the time everyone fell asleep, Ruruka was the one to fall as a victim. Makoto was lucky to survive this round with Asahina and Ryuta, but Kirigiri wasn't as lucky, for she got eliminated by committing her forbidden action, which is surviving the 4th time limit with Makoto alive. Understandably, everyone there was so devastated by this turn of events. Kaioyusuke on the other hand was not, as he reached out to Makoto to remind him that it's about time they settle their score about whose hope is better, thinking that this is some sort of hope-flexing contest. Left with no other option, and with Kirigiri's last words in mind, Makoto made an obvious choice. Before he would head for his personal fight, Makoto instructed Ryuta to be the one to take care of Asahina for him. Ryuta protested against this, but Makoto assured him that he was not turning his back on his deceased friend. With Asahina's support, Makoto made for Kaioyusuke with teary eyes, just like your average Russian abusive husband. Although the sight of Gekigahara being cut in half had temporarily shaken Makoto, he still carried on with his mission, as he kept on believing in his hope and in his ability to put an end to Kaioyusuke's madness. Kaioyusuke, on the other hand, believed that he must keep on fighting despair even if it meant that he'll be the last one standing. Makoto tried to reach out to Kaioyusuke through words initially, only for the latter to respond by attacking him straight up. Makoto managed to get himself to a room where he attempted to electrocute his hunter. In response, Kaioyusuke evaporated the water on the ground and attempted to paralyze Makoto, only for the latter to escape, albeit with traces of his blood being left wherever he went. Although he was not aware of this, Makoto still attempted to lure Kaioyusuke into another trap, which initially failed, but worked out eventually when the fire extinguisher exploded and hit Kaioyusuke in the back, thus buying precious time for Makoto to attack. Now that he's pinned on the ground, Kaioyusuke is now on the verge of eliminating his arch-nemesis, only to find himself way too reluctant to do so. Seeing this, Makoto pointed out that he figured that Kaioyusuke's forbidden action is opening doors, hoping that he would be able to get to have a discussion with Kaioyusuke. However, it would still feel like trying to kick a dead horse, for Kaioyusuke was still beating Makoto in hope of hearing the answers he wants to hear, only to hear that Makoto still wants to fight despair with him. In fact, Kaioyusuke wasn't even willing to believe that he's seeking for despair instead of hope, even when Tengen tried to relay that message to him by answering that every single future Foundation member in the building right now are the attackers. In addition to himself being blinded by his urge to root out despair, Kaioyusuke even stabbed the corpse of Yukizome. In the end, it only took Makoto striking a resemblance between how he reacted when he lost Kirigiri and how completely different it was than Kaioyusuke's reaction when he lost Yukizome. Hearing this, Kaioyusuke finally broke down into tears and got back to his senses. By then, Asahina and Ryuta had finally arrived at the scene to mention that the killing must be stopped now, for the attacker has been finally found. Once she got permission from Kaioyusuke to talk, Asahina revealed through the notebook that Kirigiri left behind that the attacker is indeed everyone involved. How, you may ask? The attackers have been inflicting lethal damage to themselves by injuring parts that only themselves can reach. There's also the fact that every victim had fallen in front of a despair camera. Hearing this, Makoto came up with the idea of tying himself in front of one of the cameras. Asahina was concerned that he would lose his life if his theory proves correct, but Makoto assured her that he'll be fine and carried on with his plan. Now that everyone fell asleep, Makoto found himself being the only one awake, with Monokuma addressing him as the attacker on screen. As he realized that he's seeing a pre-recorded video, Makoto found himself being hypnotized with the illusions of everyone that fell victim the last time he participated in such a game. Although he resisted the hypnosis bitterly, his efforts were all for naught, because he managed to free himself from his shackles and caught up to the despair dagger. Just as he was about to take an early ticket to retire from life, Sakakura came into the scene to snap him back to reality. Makoto was surprised that Sakakura managed to keep himself awake in the midst of this ordeal, albeit it did cost him an arm. On the other hand, Sakakura was also surprised to learn that there were no attackers in the first place, and that everyone who fell victim so far were victims of their own attacks. However, the identity of the person behind this entire scheme is still unknown. When Makoto requested Sakakura to cooperate with him in taking down all the screens from the building, Sakakura promptly refused, as he expressed how much he hated Makoto for defeating Junko, and that he was so eager to taking Himu down when Kyoyusuke ordered him to do so. But now that he thought that Kyoyusuke had no more use for him, Sakakura lost every sense of purpose, and was not even willing to believe Makoto when he said otherwise. On the other hand, the other survivors believed in what Makoto had said after confirming that the monitors contained daggers. Kyoyusuke, now that he regained his senses, and after thinking more rationally, concluded that Tengen was the true remnant of despair in the organization, for he was the only one who knew about the overall structure of the facility aside from Kyoyusuke. To top it off, Tengen has exploited Sakakura and Yukizome's weaknesses after they got manipulated by Junko as they kept on investigating her. Although this didn't sit well with Ryuta, Kyoyusuke insisted that this is the only possible answer. As they did so, Sakakura managed to get to the breaker room, where he began to turn the emergency lights on. Kyoyusuke figured out what's going on, and despite his reluctance to go and support Sakakura, Makoto encouraged him to do so because Sakakura still believes in Kyoyusuke even after being abandoned by him. By the time Kyoyusuke arrived to his destination, everyone broke free from the bracelets they had in their arms, but this could never be reached without Sakakura's last breath, who Kyoyusuke just arrived to see the lifeless corpse of his dearest friend in great sorrow. Although everyone is now finally free from the game, Makoto still has unanswered questions about the maker of these brainwashing videos, and the only one who could answer them is none other than the former high school animator, Midori Ryuta. Ryuta answered that it was all Junko's doing, as she managed to steal his technology to create these videos. Before Asahina could get any further explanation, Ryuta received a message from Tengen himself. Previously, Tengen had received this brainwashing video from a USB drive that Yukizome handed over to him, as she told him that it was Ryuta that made the video. Although she promised that she didn't watch it, Yukizome had already done that, and was under its influence for a while by now. For now, Ryuta was still confused about the video message he received, which turned out to be a pre-recorded video from Tengen, where he admitted to being a despair remnant. Ryuta was devastated by this news, but seeing that he was left with no other options, he decided to put an end to his misery and confess to everything he does know. Ryuta used to be an anime fan, and he always wanted to make an anime that would bring hope to people's hearts. His hopes and dreams came crashing down when he ran into Inashima Junko, who used his talents to create an anime that would get despair into people's hearts, and among those people were those that Makoto attempted to save previously. As such, Ryuta concluded that Tengen fell victim to this video made by Inashima Junko, who eventually got him to use it to destroy the future foundation from within. In order to redeem himself for all his failures, Ryuta decided to play a video he made, hoping to save people who fell into despair and those who have been in dire need of hope. Despite his eagerness for the cause, Ryuta still believed that there's no way hope can ever beat despair, for no one is as strong as Makoto. Asahina tried to talk things over with Ryuta, only to find him pulling an Uno reverse on her by hypnotizing her to hold Makoto in his place, and since he now lost his bracelet, committing his forbidden action is no longer dangerous. Meanwhile, a squadron of soldiers managed to infiltrate deep into the building, which after a brief inspection they ran into Ryuta, who hypnotized and ordered him to relay this same video message too, as well as eliminating anyone that comes in his way. Not too long after, these hypnotized soldiers ran into a struggling Makoto. Before they could get the chance to shoot him, however, Kyoyusuke arrived just in time to save Makoto and learn about what's going on. After further discussion, Makoto realized that Tengen was not a remnant of despair at all. If anything, Tengen was as surprised as everyone else that Ryuta got involved in the game, so he did everything in his power to pass his hope to him and push him to the brink to force Ryuta to take action to spread hope to the rest of the world by any means necessary. As such, they decided to make a general broadcasting room in the facility. In order to reach that, however, they had to come across a horde of hypnotized soldiers. For his part, Kaioyusuke has been largely successful in getting the attention of as many soldiers as he could. Makoto and Asahina, on the other hand, were not so lucky, as Asahina got shot in the foot. Makoto managed to attend to the wound, but Asahina insisted that Makoto should be prioritizing stopping Ryuta. By the time he got in a race against time, Ryuta had already reached the broadcasting room and set his video to be broadcasted worldwide within 30 minutes. Luckily for Makoto, Yasuhiro and Tagami arrived just in time to rescue him. But will Ryuta's plans pan out in the end? Before we could reach an answer to that, Inashima Junko couldn't help but enjoy the display of manipulation that Yukizome had performed. From winning over her students to her side, to manipulating her lover Kaioyusuke and her boss Tengen, eliminating herself and pushing Ryuta to the point he had to use the hypnosis video he had. It could be said with relative ease that Inashima Junko managed to successfully destroy the future foundation from within. Despite this, Yukizome claimed that this is where hope is about to rise and shine. But it didn't matter at all for Junko, for they're all already goners at this point.